And welcome to the conversation. Welcome to the table, the place where creativity simmers, the stories are served, and every guest adds a little flavor to the conversation. Yes, this is Soup Sessions, and I'm your host, Shawanna Kennedy. I am excited because we've been cooking up some stuff over here, and we've had some amazing people to stop through and to pull up at the table and to have a conversation with me. So that leads me to no person less than right now, the young lady herself, Dr. Latoya Davis. She is an intuitive and a spiritual teacher. So I can't wait to enjoy this conversation with Dr. Latoya Davis. Get in here. Welcome, 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 Dr. Latoya.
Hey, thank you so much. So excited to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for pausing to have a little chitty chat with me, because over here, when we think about Soup Sessions and we think about creativity and people that get to do what you do, man, as a spiritual teacher, I can only imagine what that must look and feel like. So I have to ask, what did that look like and how did that get stirred up with you? Where did that come from? Where did that start at?
Yeah, I think what's really funny about that is I've actually only leaned into that title in the last, I would say, year. And when I said it to like the people in my community, they were confused that I had not thought that that's what I had been doing that whole time. So I was like, that was really funny to me. But for me, what I do is look at kind of broader ideas and concepts that help people really understand their connection and their ability to tap into their God self, right? Whatever that looks like for the multitude of people. So there really isn't one way. So the idea of spiritual teacher really is just about helping people understand this idea that you have this aspect and this essence within you. And I got to that point because I had seen so many times where people ended up in spaces where they were being taken advantage of, where they were giving their power away, where they were in these disempowered positions. And every time it was because they had sought someone outside of themselves to be this kind of guru or, you know, this supreme being in knowledge. And I was like, wait, no. We can't keep, like, if I'm not helping the situation, I'm a part of the problem. So let me help the situation. So that's kind of how I started this.
I love that. I love that. What was that moment though, even for you, where you was like, I know you said it's been just a little bit over a year that you've actually started calling yourself the thing that you were already doing. But what happened to make you say, no, this is really who I am. And I have to lean into it for myself, because you said not only a spiritual teacher, but an intuitive. Was there one special moment in your life where you was like, this is what this really is?
I cannot say that there was, but I would say the foundation or kind of how I got here is just thinking about growing up. Like I always say, I grew up in a family where spiritually, we literally were wherever you are is what you practice, right? So I had my uncle's side of the family, they were Muslim. My dad's side of the family, they were Roman Catholic. My mom was Baptist. And so we all collectively as a family would like just go to these different things. And I remember when I was in middle school, I was talking to someone else and they were talking about, like, they were basically saying that somebody was going to go to hell. They were talking about my uncle, who was the Muslim family. And I was like, I couldn't make sense of it because I knew him as a good person, right? And through his faith, he had started a school. He had a mosque, like they fed people on the week. So like, I really just couldn't make sense of this idea that because you don't believe this one thing, then like you somehow are subjugated to these other ideas. And I think that started for me kind of the journey of really starting to understand and tap into this idea that there has to be something that is kind of over us all, you know, and brought me into this relationship with spirit without a name.
I love that because, of course, I'm the woman of faith, spiritual. I believe I'm a little bit intuitive myself as it relates to that, because I want to even know what the challenge, when I think about you being an intuitive, having a conversation with you, how do you, when we can feel certain things, right? I know we're big even on energy, just even though we're even through the airwaves right now, there's a thing, even with looking and watching, when you know that it's not acting. We know professionals get to do it all day long and they get paid money to do it, but even having conversations and feeling energy from people, is how challenging is that for you at times, though, if you're taking on not on purpose, but you're taking on the energy of other people and you feel it and be like, oh no, I have to shift and move. What is that like for you, though?
So I think there's a multitude of ways that people have these gifts, right? So we typically call them clairs, and you can experience these clairs through seeing, feeling, knowing, hearing, taking on, right? All of that. And we all have it to an extent, right? That gut or that instinct feeling that we all kind of have. My primary clair is not to be an empath, right? Or to be empathetic. Can I lean into that? Yes, but primarily because I study energy, right? I study and I have studied frequency and tapping into energy and Reiki, but that is not my primary natural way that I receive information. So my primary way is something called claircognizance. And claircognizance is just a clear sense of knowing, right? So I always tell people, like, I know information like I know my name, right? So I could be sitting here talking to you and then boom, download all this information that I did not ask for. Pops in my head, right? And learning to work with that really was just a matter of trust. Because what happens is, particularly in this world, right, where we're talking about intuitives and people who do this, people are always like, well, I see this or I feel this. And I'm like, nope, I just know it. I just know it, right? And
Now,
so,
how do you help a person, though, if they're saying they see it? Because I know for me, you know, and you feel some things, and especially I know, and it was even later in life, being a mother early on. But as I began to look self first, you know what, I always preface it with never outside of or above my creator. However, I do know that I am the gift. So it's him, it's the thing that's bigger than us all, and then it's me.
yes.
And with self-discovery and being more self-aware. So how do you help people? Because I know when you become more self-aware, that really does change everything.
Yes.
And if you're intentional and if you are practice being present, that's everything. So how do you kind of help people that may have a challenge with that?
Yeah, I think the first step is always, in this particular instance, is always getting people to believe that they are capable, that they're not crazy, right? This is one of those things that I think society does a really good job of teaching us to discount our internal knowing, right? It does a really good job of having us disconnect our physical self from our spiritual self. And so we kind of walk around in these two halves. And when the spiritual self is like, well, no, don't go that way. Or no, go sit here and study. Nope, go sit here and, by the water. We've been conditioned to not trust it, particularly if it doesn't come from someone who is outside of us, which is why I'm like, nope, let's tap in. So my first step is always helping people to understand and realize that you're not crazy. What you're getting is accurate. And it's just going to take us time to build the trust. So we work on trust. One of the things that I like to do is like you build your trust bank. So building your trust bank basically says, let's say you are someone who kind of feels and you feel, right? So building your trust bank says, okay, I'm going to do a few small actions based on what I feel. So I am going to consciously recognize the feeling that I feel. I'm going to ascribe whatever the next step is. I call a soul aligned step. So whatever the next step is, if that feeling says right now I should go to the bank and take out $50, that's the next aligned step. So you're going to do that small action, and then you're going to track what happened after you did that step. So most times people will recognize that after they followed whatever that feeling is, what the thought, the sight, the hearing, the knowing, whatever it was, after they followed it, and you do it in the small, like we're not trying to jump out there big, right? So you're going to start small. Once you've done that enough times, you build the trust bank enough to now you're like, wait a minute. Okay, wait a minute. There's a pattern here. I see that when I do this thing, okay, this other thing happens. And it really is just building the trust.
That's so good. That's so good. That's so good. I love that because I have to ask too. When we think about, look, remember, because this is talking about stirring up some things, stirring up gifts. And we think about this being a conversation. I want to know who has been someone that has possibly been instrumental in even with helping to spicing you up, to help season up the things that you get to do, because we all have people that we may look to or lean on or listen to that
Mhm.
helps us to stay even in tune and to help sharpen who we are. Do you have someone like that for you?
Absolutely. And he actually is passed. He's no longer here with us. But my godfather's name was Kwame Azaleas Ross. So putting him into the space. And we first met through dance. So I'm a dancer by training. I've danced forever. And when I was in college, the organization that I was with used to bring him to choreograph dance work. So that's how we met. And I think because of that, because we met in the space that didn't have anything to do with spirituality or gifts, like my comfort just really grew. Like we became really good friends. We have the same birthday. He's 10 years older than me, but we have the same birthday, all of the things. And I think he was so out of the box and like what people would consider extra and crazy. And he never, like, he encouraged me. If I said, "Oh, I just saw a red fox jump over the purple moon," he'd be like, "Let's talk about it." You know, what was the purple moon doing? And it was that, just that reassurance. It wasn't the like, let's shut it down. And it was always this, I remember once, because in the beginning you don't want to do things wrong, right? So it's like, I have a question for everything. And he was like, stop. I was like, but no. He was like, no, I need you to just stop. I need you to sit. Like when you have a question before you call me, I need you to sit with it for 30 minutes. The answer will come. And getting out of the habit of being in motion and feeling like you always needed to be doing, like him just being like, stop, don't do anything, like do not pass go, was literally the thing. To this day, I teach it to people, and it's still the thing when I find myself like, I'm like, just bring it back in, just stop. The answer is there. Just check in with yourself.
No, I love that. I have to ask because I know you work with women all over. Do you actually work with youth? I know you have children, right? Your mom and all of the things. Do you do anything with youth? Because what you're saying and knowing what some of them actually go through, and some of the conversations that I get to hear, I love what you are saying, because sometimes I don't think I'm all for, if we are prescribed something, then yes, by all means, take that medicine. But
Mhm.
I do believe that in some cases, I love what you just said, the advice that he gave you to sit with the question, because it is on the inside. And if we're in tune with our internal, the
Mhm.
answers are actually already there. How do you help the younger people?
Yeah, so I don't directly work with youth, but I will say I have always worked with youth, right? I started teaching when I was 15 years old. There's literally my first like real check came from teaching when I was 15. And because of that, and where I started teaching in the housing projects in Miami, and I was young and they were young. So trying to help them understand, and one, me not lose control of the class, really early on started to teach me like how to respect people as people, right? And not look at the people like by the label or kind of how they're showing up. And I have always, even now, I think that that's what helps me. Like it helps me separate what I should be telling you from like, let me look at you and figure out what's happening with you and deal with you from the you perspective. So because I've always worked with kids, I owned a dance studio for 7 years. I had kids from age 2 all the way up through adults, right? And the nature of who I am, that empowerment, that getting you to embrace yourself, that getting you to take up space, all of that has always been my nature. So it is embedded in everything. And then I was a college professor, right? So I was the person that people would come to when we needed to like meditate or tap in, or so I've always done it, but I don't do it from a like, you can go to my website and say, oh look, she works with you. You won't see that.
Hey, since you just said that though, without being a shameless plug, how can people find you?
Yes. So on social media at Chi Healing Institute, Facebook and Instagram are my primary platforms. I have a YouTube channel called Soul Aligned Living. And that's at Dr. Latoya Davis. And then my website is also chihealinginstitute.com. So I try to be pretty easy to find. Pretty much if you do any version of searching for Chi Healing Institute, you should be able to find me.
I love it. I love it. But I have to ask you, with all of this awesomeness, has there ever been a time that you wanted to quit? Like, it's because I know it could be heavy when you take on all of that. And I believe, God gives those who can actually handle certain things more so than others. Was there a time you ever wanted to be like, you know what, this is good right now, I just gotta, really save my energy for me? Have you wanted to stop?
What's really interesting is it's when I am living the life counter to what I am teaching, right? Mm-hmm. So my whole thing is be okay. Like, if the information that you're getting doesn't seem normal for everybody else, it's okay that you follow it because those are your directions. And my other thing is like, take up space. So we don't shift and shape form, like depending on where we are. It's like, be who you are 1000% of the time. And the times that I have been like, oh my gosh, this is too much, I don't want to do this, is when I was honoring kind of societal expectations. When I was letting outside things dictate what my business should look like, right? Oh, well, you should be doing this many clients and you should have this and you should have. And so me, because I'm like, well, I want the business to be successful and you are a successful business person, so let me follow what you're saying. It drained me. I was exhausted. I looked up one day and I was like, wait a minute, the reason I have a business is so that I have freedom to be with my kids, freedom to pick them up, freedom for us to do things. And when I'm done, I'm exhausted, right? And so I had to take a step back and say, okay, what is the life that you are trying to create? My tagline is help you create a life that lights you up from the inside out. So it's like, how can you do that? So for me, as long as I'm operating in that thing that is true and authentic to me, I typically don't have a problem. The other thing for me is I don't have a problem stopping. Like, I can start something and be like, this feels good. And then when it doesn't feel good, say, I'm going to change it. And for me, I don't take that as like failure. It really is just this cycle of I did it, I assessed it, and now I'm going to rework it and we'll come back at it another way. Because I always think that there's more than one way to get to an end goal.
I love that. So I have to ask you so that you can help somebody else that might have been tuning in, listening at this conversation. What is one piece of advice that you would actually get them to help them to really tap into the more spiritual side of them without being spooky and ooky? Because some people always attach it to being spooky, but to really lean into listening at that inner voice, because it really does already know. And the more and more they get to learn themselves, it will help them to be their best self. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, my thing is always that the highest aspect of you, however you want to call that, is only concerned with you living the best version of your life, right? Once you believe that, like, even if you just have to, like, once you believe that, then it's easier. It is easier to follow the intuitive knowings that you have. And so what I would offer is similar to what I said earlier. Is like, don't start with something major, right? Don't test this theory out with like something life shattering. Do something really small so that you can prove to yourself that the things that you feel, you hear, you sense, are accurate. Journaling is a wonderful way to kind of just document and keep track of what's happening, or nowadays voice memos. Like you can just leave a quick voice memo for yourself. And this is the easiest one I'm going to do. When you wake up in the morning, before you get out of bed, before you do anything. So I start with like my gratitude. So I wake up, thank you, whatever, all of the stuff, talk about what I want to do for the day, and then put in a thing of something you want to see. Like, I want to see a butterfly today, and then watch it show up.
I love that. I love that. Look, I'm looking around like, okay, yeah, because we really do. We can create it all. And I love that. I appreciate you so much for coming by, stopping in, having a conversation with me. Because Dr. Latoya, I'm telling you, you really, you be adding some little, look, and what's emerald, that little
Yes,
bam, that little bam. Because if everybody really tap into who they are, the core of who they are, that's beyond what other people see, there is more freedom in that. They'll be happier. They'll find joy, because I believe what happiness is based off what is happening for the average person. But joy, if you lean into the joy that the world didn't give and the world can't take away, we all would be much more happier. This would be a much greater space. So I appreciate you for stopping by and having this conversation with me. Yeah, this soup session with me. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Dr. Latoya Davis.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Well, we want to thank you. Yes, you, and you for stopping by Soup Sessions. I am super excited. Thank you again. I am your host, Shawanna Kennedy. This is your conversation, the table that you pull up to have that conversation where what creativity is simmering, and we know that stories will serve. And yes, possibly guests just like you can add a little bit more flavor to the things that we get to do here. So thank you for joining us, and I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.